Okay, good morning, folks. So, I wanted to go over a couple things that I didn't go over last week, and that I wanted to keep it in line with things you might want to consider getting and carrying in your vehicle at all times. I understand some of us have got limited space in our vehicle. Okay, this is the tent that I talked about last week. This is a full-time. It is a hot tent. It's pretty light, and it can go on top of your backpack, and along with my mat, which is from the Army, obviously. Uh, these two stay in the pickup truck at all times. Okay. But with, with this, I also carry a tarp. And you'll notice I've got the tarp that's got the silver backing on the bottom. That's waterproof. So, in the bottom of this tent, there's no bottom. So I use the tarp underneath this tent. And as you can see, the tarp is well used. Okay. Um, but if you can't afford to buy this tent here, the tent alone here cost me $100. The tarp cost me like $35. And obviously this mat I bought at an Army Navy store, and it was like $25. Okay. But, you're going to end up spending a little bit of money to have this equipment on hand. But I'm going to try and go over this very quickly. Some of the things that I keep on hand, and some of the accessories that when I know I'm going in the woods, what I actually use. Okay, I have used all of this equipment. Some of it good, some of it right? It's doable, it's functional, but I want to go with the real basic stuff that you need to keep in your vehicle. So one of the basic things you want to keep in your vehicle is a tarp. I suggest that you get the tarp that's got the silver on the bottom, because this tarp can be used as a ground cloth. It can be turned into a tent, a quick shelter tent, and it's just good all the way around. Another thing is a poncho, right? A waterproof poncho. Now, you can get these at Walmart. They're $7 right now. I bought this when it was like $3. Okay? Or you can go with a waterproof jacket, right? So a good hunting jacket. It's synthetic. It's waterproof. It's windproof, and anything to separate you from water and try and keep you dry. You wanna look at that, right? That's an absolute must, and you should have a jacket and a towel at all times in your vehicle, just because. Another thing that I carry is I always carry a toboggan, right? Keep the heat in your head. A pair of mittens or gloves of some kind, right? Keep your fingers from touching things that are cold. A spare pair of socks, right? Because if your feet get cold, you want to be able to take the socks that are in your shoes, take them off, right? Hang them on your backpack as you're walking, and dry them, but you need other socks to put on. So you want to always have a good pair of dry socks, right? I also carry a turtleneck. Now, this is a synthetic silk type turtleneck. It's fairly expensive to buy, but any kind of undershirt, like a long john shirt or any kind of turtleneck like that will do you well in cold weather because it keeps the heat in your neck. And so the heat, you want to keep as much heat into you. I get the synthetic one because it's also slightly waterproof, and an extra pair of pants, right? Whether it be jeans, sweatpants, whatever you decide. Because again, if you get wet, you want to be able to pull that wet gear off, put something dry on. That stays in my pickup. Okay? This is all this right here. This all stays in my pickup. That's in my pickup at all times. Okay? Moving on, specifically tents. I have several tents. I have the full-time, which is a hot tent. It's got the stovepipe hole in it. I've got the stove, the little wood stove that goes with it. That goes with me. 90% of the time, I do not take the stove with me because it's just bulky and it's heavy. But the tent itself is pretty light, and it's very easy to put up. It's one pole. Okay, one pole, and then you pull your strings out and you tie your strings off, and boom, your tent's up, right? Another good tent that I used for several years is this Ozark tent, right? It's an Ozark Trail. I got it at Walmart. It's a 3-person dome tent. I will tell you that maybe 2 people in this tent, okay, with your gear. This I carried everywhere with me for probably 4 years, and it's still good. The one thing, it does take a little bit of time to put up, okay? So that can be annoying, especially if you're on a trail and you get up to the top of the trailhead, and now you've got to spend 30 minutes to an hour to put your tent up. You're cold, all you want to do is lay down, go to sleep, and this is going to take you a little bit of time to put up. I'm not lying, okay? Another tent that I have is called a truck bed tent, and it's by Vevor. This one is the 6 foot tent because I have a 6.5 foot truck bed. But it stays in the truck just in case, right? Just in case. So this stays in the truck. I've only used it once to make sure it worked. Very good tent, okay? It's worth the money to buy something like that if you have a pickup truck. Let's talk about my absolute favorite tent. If I'm going out in the woods for a week, right? I'm going on a hiking trip. I'm out in the woods for a week. My favorite tent is this Coleman. It is a Coleman instant cabin, instant put up, 6-person tent. But as you can see, it is the size of my full-size bed. It is heavy. But I had this set up at Prepper Nurse One's property for about 4 months and never had any leaks in the tent. Did get one rip in the tent, but that was my own fault, and it was patched. Right, one of the guys up there knew how to patch it and patched it for me. Thank you. My absolute favorite tent right there. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, if you buy it, do get the Rainfly accessory. Okay, this tent takes you maybe 5 to 10 minutes to put up, and it is huge inside. Okay, it's big enough that I can put this cot, my compost toilet, this little table, right? It's a fold-up table. It's cool as shit. And still have room to put my solar generators, my buddy heater. I mean, it's huge inside. If you're a single person or 2 people going on a camping trip or a hunting trip, this is a perfect freaking tent. This tent right here gets a 100 from me, but the only problem with it is it's big, it's bulky, and it's heavy. So if you're hiking a long way up in the mountains, it doesn't really work well. Okay, so you have to think about what you're going to be using it for. But that one right there, the Coleman Instant Pop-Up Tent, definitely, that is, for me, that is a must if I'm going out and I know I'm going to be set up on a campsite for a week or two, right? Another thing that I have here, this is by Invoker, and it is an air mattress that rolls out and it auto inflates, right? And that goes on my military style cot, okay, that I got off of eBay. You can get these off of eBay right now. They're like $55, right? If you don't want to spend that much, Nature Hike on Amazon also has a cot, but this cot doesn't just fold out. You have to put this cot together, and it takes a little bit to put that together. Another thing that I keep in the truck, right? I'm trying to, that's what I use when I go out for a week. But the things that I keep in the truck, right? I got the tarp, I got the truck tent, I've got spare clothes, I've got an extra tent in case I have to hike somewhere. I have the headlamp. Remember I told you last week, carry a headlamp. This one runs off of AA batteries, right? It's pretty good. It's got 3 different settings, and it's got a spotlight setting, okay? I use this hunting a lot, right? A road atlas, right? I happen to like the Rand McNally Motor Carrier Road Atlas, but any kind of map atlas, specifically if you're going into an area where you're going to be hunting, you want a map of that area, like for topography, and to show you various ways and various roads and ways to get in and out. I also carry bug spray. I like the Bullfrog bug spray. Like I said, I live here on the coast. Mosquitoes are year-round until it gets below 30, right? One of the other things I have is my sleeping bag. Now, this sleeping bag, I got this sleeping bag off of eBay, and it is a Teton sleeping bag, and you can see it's compressed, right? This thing, when you roll this thing out and flip it a couple times, it heats you by the air in the bag, okay? Now, what you can get from Teton is you can get what they call the wool blanket that goes inside the sleeping bag. As you can see, I have one. I've only used it once because it got down to -10. So I only used it once. Another thing you want to think about, if you're going into cold weather and you want to carry something with you for icy trails, right? And you don't want to spend the money to buy specific mountain climbing boots. These are the spike chains that you put on your boots, right? So these are like ice cleats, and they just slide. I'll show you here. They just slide on your shoe, right? So you slide it on the front of your shoe, and these cleats dig into the ground, right? They dig into the ground, and they are great. I actually these are not put away properly because I just pulled them out of the pickup truck because I've used them this last week because of all the ice and stuff there at work. But I carry these with me, right? They're great. They're absolutely great. I would recommend that you get a set of these and keep them in your go bag, because you never know when you're going to have to go over a mountain pass. And these are made by Galindo, and they come in a little kit. It's easy to grab it, toss it in the go bag, boom, done, right? Another thing that goes in my go bag that I didn't cover last week is my UCO. So I have a little UCO candle, right? That's for inside light for the tent. It also puts off a little bit of heat. So if you're in a tent and you don't have any kind of heat source, I also have the waterproof matches, right, with the little striker. And as you can see, this has been pretty well used. It's by UCO, so I mean, you can buy that from UCO, and it comes with these little candles, right? And the candles are 9-hour candles, so they work really well. It does put off a little bit of heat. The smaller one, not so much as the bigger one. This is a small one because obviously I'm trying to limit the weight in my backpack. As it is, my backpack is about 45 to 55 pounds. So I'm trying to limit the weight that I'm carrying when I got to go on a long hike. But those two just go in the go bag, right? They just drop in there. They're there. If I need them, they're there. If I don't need them, I don't have to worry about them. I do have the Duraflame. I recommend this brand, Duraflame. These logs will last a good long time on your fire. So if you have like a bonfire outside the tent, you can put a Duraflame there. It will burn slowly, and it will keep the coals underneath your bonfire going, right? And it's great if you have a wood stove. They're great to put in the wood stove. Please make sure when you're using these that you keep them slightly above the bottom of the wood stove. That way they can get air. Otherwise, it will go out on you. So that's what I have. I mean, obviously, I've got a lot of camping gear because obviously I like to go camping. And when I go camping, I don't take any electronics with me. So the first one of you that comments that says, well, why don't you show us a camping video? I don't take my electronics with me when I go camping, right? I am there to go fishing, I'm there to go hunting, and I'm there to turn off the world, right? A lot of times I'm there with my dog, and I'm more concerned about keeping my dog safe in the woods than I am about videos or pictures, right? So, yeah, that's never going to happen. You're never going to see me out in the woods because that is my time where I turn off the world and we're with God and the dog, and we're enjoying what God has provided. That's my personal choice. You can believe me or not believe me. I really do not care, right? I'm giving you this information because a lot of people have asked me, what kind of tent do you recommend? I recommend a tent that you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with a 20-pound tent, booyah. If you're comfortable with just a tarp, just grab a tarp, strap it around the back of your backpack, and off you go, and you've got a tarp for a tent, booyah. Me, I'm kind of that age where I want the mansion, right? Unfortunately, this limits you on how far you can go from your vehicle because it is heavy. Okay, it is heavy. I'm not going to lie, it is heavy. And I do take a lot of stuff with me when I know I'm going to be out for a week. I also take, every time I'm going to go camping anywhere, this little bad boy, this little Jackery, is the best solar generator that I have found for in the woods. I can drop it, I can knock it around, and it still keeps going strong, right? I recommend it 100%. If you don't have a lot of money, the small little Jackery will charge your phone, okay? Uh, if you take a phone, but it can also power your lights and power a little heater, and it's awesome, right? It's freaking awesome. Uh, but yeah, so I pulled all this out of the truck, and it's got to all go back in the truck, and I kind of thought that I would show you some of the things that I keep in my truck, and of course I'm going to take some of my meals if I'm going to go out. Now, a good idea is to have a little package, a 72-hour package. This is from 4Patriots, but you can use whatever you want. Obviously, I have pulled this out of the truck because it's starting to get kind of wore, right? So I've got to get another kit. I would recommend that you get the ones that are in like the cardboard boxes with the Mylar, because stuff gets bounced around in your vehicle. You want to have it, but you want to have it in an area where, okay, if something hits it or something, it's not going to bust the packaging open. And yeah, I hope this kind of helps y'all get an idea of some of the things you need to take when you're going out in the woods. You want to, number one, you want to know where you're going. Number two, you want to have a map of where you're going in case for some reason like a rock slide happens, or a deadly animal is like a grizzly bear or black bear, or depending on where you're at, a mountain lion or something is on the trail that you're trying to take to go back. Then you can deviate and go a different way. So yeah, a map is a must. Another good thing to have is a compass. I don't carry a compass because I use Onxhunt, and ONXHUNT is the name of the app, and it will track you to where you're at, and then you can follow that track back, as long as you've got signal, right? Understand that when you get in some of these mountain valleys and you get in some areas, you will lose signal. So, that's why I say carry a map, because you just never know. The old prepper adage is 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So the more that you can keep with you for survival, the better off you are, right? Because accidents happen, right? And trying to take somebody who has fallen into a crevice and trying to pack them out along with packing out all your gear can be exceptionally difficult. A tarp, you can put a person on a tarp between two long tree limbs and drag them out like on a travois. Okay? Ask me how I know. Okay? And it is not fun to do that. Okay? Even if you only have to drag them a mile to where emergency personnel can get to you, it is absolutely not fun. Okay? So, ask me how I know. Just think about these. You need food, you need water, you need shelter, you need warmth. Okay? Everything else is extra. But that right there is what you need. You need food, number one. You need water, number two, right? Number three, you need some way to shelter in place or some kind of shelter that you can use until emergency personnel can get to you, right? And number four, you need to know where you're at. You need to know where you're at. Um, if you just go walking off into the Dismal Swamp, alligators are going to eat you. Alligators are going to eat you. Water moccasins are going to bite you, and you're not going to live very long, right? So you need to be aware of where you're at and the type of animals that are in that area. This includes spiders, snakes, especially overseas. You have the Asian hornet. You don't want to disturb one of their nests. You will die. Okay? So you need to be aware of where you're going, and you need to adjust what you're carrying for where you're going, right? A little bit of common sense will do you well. These are the basic things. Of course, I adjust this for whatever I'm doing. Like I said, I've got the tent that I can grab and shove into my hiking bag, and I've got the tarp, right? But I keep other items on my truck just in case, right? In case I get stuck out, or Lord forbid, I run off the road and now I'm down in a ravine somewhere, and I've got to survive with injuries until help can arrive, right? So this all helps you do that. And you know, if you never use it, you can always resell it, right? Um, so that's one way of looking at it too. But I find that these items are the ones that I use quite frequently. And like I said, if you've never bought a Coleman pop-up tent, oh my God, it is so much fun. Just it makes the camping trip so much easier, right? And Coleman has got, in my opinion, one of the best tents on the market. Uh, it's not an Arctic tent. I don't have an Arctic tent. I would like to get an Arctic tent for when I go up in the Alpine. I don't have one. But yeah, I hope this kind of helps you to get an idea of things that you need to be thinking about, uh, just to carry in your vehicle for emergencies, right? Um, because you never know. You could be stuck on the interstate and they shut the interstate down. So that's all I have for you today. Bicycle!